What are some common signs that someone grew up with SHTTY parents? When they think they always cause problems for others, and when they are emotionally and socially closed off, so it's very hard for them to be more sociable, etc. Edit. Thanks for the awards and making my day better lol. They tell traumatized stories and think they are happy memories. Edit. Wow, I did not expect this to hit so hard with so many people. Thanks for the awards. They are always trying to figure out what they did wrong and what they're supposed to be doing and how, while editing their own thoughts and feeling vaguely bad. Control freak. They grew up in chaos, alcoholism, gambling, foreclosure, and are obsessed with averting some unforeseen disaster. They're completely unwilling to open up and share anything because in their experience it will always be used against them. Doesn't talk about their interests because parents have never showed interest, belittled them. They don't understand simple gestures of kindness. Took my husband a long time to understand that my parents liked giving little gifts to people and doing things for them, that they weren't trying to insult him or us or make us feel incompetent, they were just showing affection. Edit. Some people are focusing on the gift part of this, while I was trying to emphasize the kindness. Like, my dad, or brothers, offering to help or keep company when he mentioned he had to fix the deck or paint the shed or go to the junkyard for a car part. To him the offer was insulting and suspicious. To them it was just what you do to make someone's life easier. But in his family that notion didn't exist, so he couldn't figure out why it was happening, except he didn't think it could be a good reason. People who try way too hard to please, and are terrified to put themselves first. This is the saddest trait because it's the easiest for fresh predators to take advantage of when the parents are out of the picture. If only terrible parents knew or cared that they were grooming their kids for future abuse. Edit. Putting yourself first in this context does not mean being selfish or narcissistic. It means having the capacity to set healthy boundaries. It means understanding that your opinions have merit, that your emotions matter, that you should have complete bodily autonomy, and that you shouldn't fear the wrath of Zeus if you say no. Also, it means that you should never have to do anything you're uncomfortable with to earn someone's love. They don't form attachments to others. They grew up in an environment where such attachments were a negative and/or resulted in negative outcomes. They go out of their way to please people. They can't take compliments because they're so used to being put down. They flinch if they hear someone raise their voice or at loud noises. Edit. I'm going to add in the fact that they're not good, uncomfortable with conflict even if they're not directly involved, because they inevitably get dragged into the conflict when their parents are arguing. Not being able to remember the majority of their childhood. I'm talking about huge gaps of time you just cannot recall. I get it. Repressing the memories is just the mind trying its best to protect itself. They get attached way too quickly to anyone that shows the bare minimum of human empathy. Is this how I write it? Towards them. Edit. Thank you for the awards, and I'm also calling myself out with this. They're a desperate people pleaser. Someone who'll leap to the aid of anyone, who'll give up anything they have so that someone else doesn't miss out, who will go well out of their way to be of assistance, and who abhors needing any help themselves. Going into random panic mode when something insignificant goes sideways. They have unstable relationships. Struggle in social situations. Weren't taught basic household tasks. Get nervous when someone raises their voice. Don't know how to apologize or apologize for things they shouldn't apologize for. Struggle with intimacy, physical touch. Are often people pleasers. Delivered a pizza today. The kid, around 15 said sorry over 20 times and I was at his door for less than 2 minutes. Haha, I regret clicking on this thread. Paranoia. The inability to trust others and obsessively overthinking every conversation they have. Also, speaking from a personal perspective, people that grew up with toxic parents continue to question their sanity and reality here and there from the continuous gaslighting. They suck at apologizing. Either they apologize for every small little thing because their parents made them feel guilty just for existing. Or they never apologize at all, or only apologize insincerely, because admitting you are wrong is a sign of weakness. And #X200B. And #X200B. Edit. Virtual hugs to everyone commenting and feeling represented by this. What happened to us during our childhoods was cruel, no one should have had to live through that. For the people that were asking about me, I'm in a much better place now. But in my downtimes, I still do mourn for the childhood that I never had. Having no desire to see them. Emotional numbness, especially in the face of bad things. Once you've seen enough shit, certain things just don't faze you anymore. They lie specifically for avoiding conflict. Actually, I change my answer to avoiding conflict. It's avoidance until an explosion. It's all they know. You remember being severely neglected yet you were told you were spoiled. It's the way they apologize. For example, it's not just sorry. It's sorry, said quick and urgently to avoid being hit. The startle reflex. When they flinch at loud noises, or when someone puts a hand on their shoulder, or when they feel they've done something wrong. A patient called me the wrong name and when I gently clarified, he flinched like he was about to dodge a blow. Why is nobody mentioning the silent footsteps? When you grow up with parents that will yell at you for existing, you develop the ability to hide your presence as much as possible and always try to keep your noise and visibility to a minimum. Well, this relaxing walk through childhood hell was a nice break from reading about the start of WW3. Or not. I'm starting to think my parents weren't the best parents. No privacy boundaries because they were never given any. They say sorry too much for things they shouldn't even be sorry for, especially for things like opinions or asking for things they want. They don't share things about themselves. Anything you say can and will be used against you isn't just applicable when you're getting arrested. Funnily enough, that great memory was never around if you brought up something they did wrong. People who flinch at close contact or fast hand movements close to them. As an adult, overwhelming guilt with spending on clothes and accessories. Inability to admit being wrong or wrongdoing. Stems from being wrong was met with harsh consequences as a child. Toxic idea of love, very poor communication skills, being incredibly needy or controlling, not wanting to speak about their family and avoiding the topic of family altogether. They flinch when they hear someone raise their voice. Anytime I mention my last name, people automatically assume I'm a meth addict. My dad was a major meth dealer in my town. Many of my teachers would tell me to go ahead and give up on school rather than encouraging me to be better. Extreme independence because they couldn't rely on their parents when young. Like unnecessary levels of independence and not asking their friends for help when it's no big deal. Non-committal behavior in a relationship because they don't like to be dependent on someone else. Speaking from experience, they don't trust anybody. They don't ask for help and they isolate themselves a lot. They learned the people closest to them will only hurt them, so they're too afraid to open up and rely on people. Edit. Wow, didn't expect all this and the awards. Thanks, smiling face with tear. I can always tell when someone didn't, though. When I've alluded to having difficulties with my parents, it's unbelievable how many times I've been responded to with, yeah, but they do love you, though. Not all parents love their children. Not all parents are good people. Your experience is not universal. It was ways heartbreaking to get this response, because I knew that, even if they didn't say it, they were blaming me for the issues. When they keep explaining themselves, they say something, and then 3-4 more things to explain the first thing, which didn't really need explaining in the first place. People that are old beyond their years, nothing screams trauma like the too well-behaved, mature, quiet, self-sufficient child. We are experts at being exactly what we need to be to go unnoticed and cause as few waves as possible. Reflexive hatred for anything which makes people excited. You ask them, have you seen the new Less Than Insert movie? Their immediate response is, no, it looks like shit. Game. Looks like shit. Song. Sounds like shit. Car. Looks like shit. Drawing. That's terrible. That's learned behavior. There used to be a time when they were an innocent child who was excited about something. They wanted to share their excitement. Their shitty parents mocked and ridiculed them, so they created this defensive mechanism. They never admit they're excited for anything, and they mock and ridicule anyone who does. It's really sad. Empathy, but not in a healthy, normal sense. Growing up in an abusive household, I learned to be extremely hyper-aware of everyone's emotions so I could act accordingly so things wouldn't escalate. I remember always asking my ex-boyfriend if his mom seemed to be in a sour mood when we went out together, and he'd always say she looked happy, but she would have an episode later that day. It keeps me safe in a way, but it impacts my mental health severely. It's a common thing I notice in others too. Bro, this feed is kinda depressing me. One that I haven't seen so far. Unable to be reasoned with. If you disagree with them, it's a huge argument. They have to be right. And then they will get nasty when they feel like they're losing and will degrade your character. I've gotten better, thankfully. Flinching around knives, self-depreciative jokes, constant thoughts of, I wouldn't have to deal with this if I killed myself a week ago per month ago, years ago, overwhelming urge to take others' pain away because they remember how they felt in that kind of situation, not exclusively cutting but self-harm, sometimes in more subtle ways like bad personal hygiene, because they feel like a rotting corpse on the inside, so they want to reflect how they feel. Intrusive thoughts, social anxiety because their parents were always controlling, constant need for reassurance. It's a long list. Doesn't know how to do basic household tasks. They never go after what they deserve, because they feel they're not worth it. Apathy.